This Never Throw in the Towel podcast episode is brought to you by UKIM Occupational Health and Wellbeing. They are a healthcare service company with a clear commitment of breaking the stigma and breaking the silence around conversations about mental health. Their mission is to try and tackle the problem with the nation's sick economy with the aim to keep people in work. I just want to say a huge thank you to UKIM for getting behind the Never Throw in the Towel podcast, which is conversations around mindset, mental health, and physical health, with the message of resilience, never giving in, and never throwing in the towel. Our aim is to help and inspire. Thank you. So, welcome to the Never Throw in the Towel podcast. In the words of our first guest, what a time to be alive. Don't be shit. Yeah. And I'm sure we won't be shit. Our first guest is a straight-talking, direct, fascinating individual. He is a leadership and resilience coach, ex-military background. He is a TEDx speaker. This is the CEO adventurer, John Beamson. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Welcome, John.
10 out of 10. That was a brilliant introduction, and I absolutely love it. And it is a phenomenal time to be alive.
Oh, that's it. Oh, I got it wrong. I got it wrong.
No, you haven't got it wrong. It's for anybody to change how they see fit. And the origin of that comes from a chap. I did his training a few years ago, and that is what you call a disarming statement. So if you walk into a room full of strangers and you say that statement, your intentions are, I'm a friend, not a foe.
So what's the statement? What's the statement?
He says, what a phenomenal time to be alive, but you can adapt it to fantastic.
No, I can't believe I got it wrong. But
yeah.
You know what? I genuinely, when I hear you say that on LinkedIn and stuff, I think it's such a cracking catchphrase. And also, don't be shit. I love them both.
So what, you've got a great saying, catchphrase, whatever you want, when people start saying it back to you.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. That's like gold. And again, don't be shit comes from, the origin I know it of is from a lady called Chloe Dillwalter, who's an ultra distance runner.
Right.
And she said it, I want to say 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
And I heard it on a documentary and I instantly was like, oh, that is a funny saying.
Yeah.
Because we've all got a choice whether we're shit or we're not shit.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like to you, that's an individual choice, but we've all got a choice not to be shit every day.
Yeah.
But also, if you want to be shit, just own it and say, today, I'm being shit.
Well, you know what?
And accept it.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about that before off camera and stuff. We're shit on the social media side of things.
Yeah.
And
I love the honesty.
And we touched on before, me and Craig, we've got very different strengths. Yeah. And I think actually self-awareness of what you're shit at and what you're good at, you can either try and improve what you're shit at or just own it and go, you know what, that's not my bag.
There's a big thing at the moment. Everyone seems to love a label. Everyone wants to put a label on themselves. But for me, I've never heard anyone say, oh, I'm a beast or like I'm a monster. It always has to be like a negative label. I don't understand that mindset.
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
It's popular at the moment to say you've got ADHD. Like, I'm old school dyslexic. Like, I grew up in the 90s with dyslexia. No one was shouting about being dyslexic in the 90s because you were bullied.
Yeah.
Like, that's the truth. So you hid anything that you thought was like a disadvantage or a weakness, and you developed another skill to cover it. So, like, when you talk about that, like, I'm hard dyslexic. So, like, Grammarly is my best friend. I've got, like, a great VA, PA, because I'm like Johnny age 5 with the crayons. Do you know what I mean? Like, but again, understand that that's a weakness and accept it and go, well, I'll just outsource the problem.
Yeah.
And then guess what? It's no longer a problem unless you love telling people about your problem.
Yeah. You know what?
Well, actually, sorry, that leads me on to your first question.
Yeah.
How have you done so well for yourself with that problem?
Well, we live in a great time of technology. So things like Grammarly, things like being able to outsource, putting your own ego to one side and saying, I might have to pay someone here to do this for me because I can't do it as good as I would want to. So there's that side of it. But again, it comes back to a bit of self-awareness. Like, are you aware that it's a problem? You said today you don't like doing, or you don't want to do social media. Now, you could do it really badly for a long time and go, oh, we should have just outsourced it from the start. So I think self-awareness is important. Like, I think as a leader, you need to write down, like, what am I good at honestly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you need to write like, what am I bad at, and what can you outsource, what can you train, or like what doesn't really float your boat.
I
You doesn't
think
come across it anymore.
I'm the same. I don't know whether I'm dyslexic, but I'm a really terrible speller, and I really struggle to read. But I think, you know, if for example, if I'm doing an introduction, I'm actually more confident just talking it. Reading it would be more out of my comfort zone. So there's negatives and pluses. Really, it's just how you approach it.
I've never rehearsed a keynote speech I've ever given. I didn't rehearse TED.
You are joking. No way.
No. Like, I know.
Really?
Why?
I know my structure because I'm an energy person.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like, I want to feel what the energy, what am I getting back from the audience? What's hitting well?
Because that surprises me a little bit, because you would have struck me to fail to prepare to fail type guy.
So I'll prep all my slides.
Right.
And when I initially sit down, I'll say like, what am I talking about? So I'll know what my source subject is.
Right.
And I'll think, well, I don't need to rehearse it because I was there.
So that actually leads on to the second piece, I would say. We've talked about self-awareness, emotional awareness, because you said you want to read the energy of a room. That's emotional awareness. That's
100%.
managing and understanding other people's emotions. So if that room's got a bit of a drop, you then want to bring more energy, more passion into that room to bring people back up.
Yeah, and you've got to be bold and brave as well, because what people try to do is they want everybody to like them, but that's impossible. So what you should try and do is get everyone to dislike you. And then the ones who really home in on you, who love what your jam is, they'll be all in on you. And that's all you need. You just need the few, not the many.
And
That's it. And again, I spoke at a property event in Derby a few months ago, probably February, and it's bold, but I started with this exact saying: 90% of people in property are full of shit. That's how I opened it. And everyone's face was on the floor, and I went, so hopefully I'm speaking to the 10%. And then everyone went, I'm the 10%.
Can you just make sure that bit's a clip? Get that bit on TikTok.
So like that there was me. And then all of a sudden, people in the audience were like big smiles, because they know, we know what we're in for now.
Yeah.
Like, who opens up? Because it makes them think, Jesus, would I open up with that? Like, that takes a bit of balls to do that.
But from a technical standpoint of actually being a speaker, that is actually a bit of that's an unbelievable opener, because you're getting wallop. I'm here.
Yeah. We're buckle in.
I feel a bit out of place because I was in property.
Then
I did 7 years in recruitment, so sales and being full of shit, I'm pretty used to.
Well, I mean, I always say I cut hair and talk shit for a living, being a barber. But so I want to go right back.
Yeah.
And we touched on, in the introduction, your military background. Yeah. And that's something that me and Craig really want to kind of touch on. So take us back, tell us your story of when you got into being in the military.
So, classic story, Northeast, working class, did shit at school, a history of men prior who've been in the forces, always loved like the concept of belonging to something bigger than you. Facey at the time, like, loved like flags and banners and tribalism stuff. So like the army's a great fit. So I always thought like I want to join the army, but actually I failed twice to join the army. One time it was really funny because I remember walking into the careers office, because you used to have like proper careers office, didn't you? And that was your first, like, you'd knock on the door, wait, and they'd say, come in. And I remember walking in and the guy said, McDonald's is down the road, mate. And I was like, fucking hell. And he was like, I don't think it's for you.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
But like, that was my first introduction into like, the world is tough.
Yeah.
So like,
what were you? Were you out of shape?
Oh yeah, I was like, I was friends with the what you call it, the vending machine too much. Like,
right, okay.
And when was that? How old were you then?
Probably like 16 and a half, turning closer to 17.
So straight out of school.
Straight out of school. But I went through the process, got so far along, wasn't fit enough, failed. Went back again the next year, still wasn't fit enough, failed. So that was my first, like, dealing with genuine disappointment. Where I was like, oh, have I got a third one in me?
And was both times in the physical aspect?
Physical aspect, yeah.
Because
the standard was like, the standard at the time was high.
Was it harder than what it is now? Because I know
What
now.
did you have to get a mile and a half?
Yeah, so it was like mile and a half. There was quite a few other things, but I just remember thinking, God, the standard's like
Right.
fucking high.
Yeah.
And then what I did was I took action. I joined a running club.
All right.
So like instead of winging it,
Yeah.
trying it myself, which had failed twice, I joined a running club.
Ah, right.
And then I didn't just go back. I went back and just like fucking crushed it.
Oh, wow.
Like I was like, I've just passed. Like I'm having like I want to be in that top tier of passes.
And how did you you're a young lad then?
Yeah.
How did you have that mindset then at such an early age?
Yeah, I'm not sure where it came from, but I just remember harnessing the disappointment and thinking like every time like I was with the running club doing runs and it got hard, I thought this like may be hard now, but that coming back on the train from Scotland with a fail.
It's
That's
harder.
what they used to say to you. You failed.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Like there was no like well done for being like alive. Like you failed.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you in 12 months maybe.
Yeah.
Like
And you know what though? That's it's in this modern day world that we live in. A lot of the things that we do now is everyone wins, especially at school.
Yeah,
There's no winners and no losers. Actually, a loss or a failure
can
isn't
be-
a bad thing.
No.
It's a lesson.
It's a great driver actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're willing to, because I'll tell you this, like this is where it's at. If I'd have got in, say someone had just gone, oh well, he's a good lad, and we'll let him in, we'll give him, you know what I mean? I wouldn't have made it through phase 1 training.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would have failed, and then I would never have gone back. So I needed those 2 failures
Yeah.
to become fit enough to survive phase 1 training.
Yeah.
So like long term, retrospectively, it did me a favour.
Yeah.
By failing.
Yeah.
So
Well,
So how old were you when you eventually got in?
like when I finally got in, I just turned 18.
Right. Okay. So
Right.
still
Still,
very
like,
young.
young,
So
yeah.
still
Yeah.
you've hit
Young.
adversity, in your mid-teens, and you've overcome
Yeah, I
it.
mean, like adversity hits you from I think the moment you interact with other human beings who
Yeah.
aren't your friend, even maybe it's your friends and family, but school, bullying, character building,
yeah.
not wearing the latest and greatest
Yeah.
trainers.
Yeah.
Like these have all been a thing
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a long, long time.
Yeah.
Sounding different, looking different. None of that's new. Like
No.
So it was a case, and actually, school. My mum worked in Sedgefield, and I'm from Bishop, Auckland. So I didn't go to school with everyone who I left my local school with. I had to go to Sedgefield, so I went to like
That's massive.
out the county.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't
That's-
know anyone.
Yeah.
Day 1, week 1. Who's
That-
this kid?
And that as a kid, that's massive.
Huge. Not
Yeah.
knowing anybody.
Yeah.
Like,
What did you walk in? What if
yeah, I know.
what a
I wish-
phenomenal time to be alive.
I wish I knew it then. Nah, always looked like Harry Potter. Nah, definitely.
So you eventually got in. How long overall? Sorry, did you spend?
Yeah, I'd say I left January 12, so probably did like somewhere about 12 years.
It's a long stint, especially for nowadays.
it's
You
a
hear
long
of a lot shorter stints happening.
So like all the boys that I joined up with now, they've all left. So that I know still a few boys who did their full service. Now they look at it in a different way because they're institutionalized.
Yeah.
And that's a hard gig to kick. And they think because they've done a amount of time and they've got a pot of money and a pension that they're sorted for the rest of life. But unless you replace that thing with something else,
Yeah.
you'll just find destructive habits. And
Well-
it's a tale as old as time.
Yeah. Well, actually, that was a question later in the podcast, but actually, what you've touched on, I'd like to jump on that. So, why is it? What do you think? What are the factors why a lot of military struggle with leaving the military and getting into normal life, and the homelessness is a factor and stuff? What's your take on that?
There's a couple of solid reasons. For me, I'll speak from my experiences. I was massively entitled when I left. Like, the world owed me all the favours. Where are my favours?
Yeah.
And then once you realise there's no favours coming, you become angry and bitter. And then that's where jealousy, hatred of somebody else, or disappointment, these come in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, there was a bit of that, and I always felt like I should be doing better than I'm doing, and I kind of even looked down on myself a bit and thought I should be doing more than this. I was fucking mega in the army. And then you still identify, it's a label, you still identify as a veteran. So you still hold on to that former identity instead of saying, I need to create a new identity for myself. I need to find what's done is done. Had a great time. Thanks very much. Proud of what I've achieved. But what's the next chapter in the book now? And this is the problem. People leave. 1 year rolls by. You've done nothing. 2 year, 3, and you've got no stories in your book. And then you're still like going, 1994. I was like 94. It's 2024, mate. What are you about?
I've never looked at it that way. About changing your identity, changing the title that you give yourself. You come out, yes, you are a veteran.
Yeah.
But you're effectively a veteran of the past.
Yeah.
You're not looking at what you are now and what you could go on to be. And I really appreciate that.
There's loads of lads and lasses who I got out with who've all gone on to start great businesses. And why they've been successful is they've changed their identity.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
They're proud of what they've done, but they're not holding on for grim death. Because once you leave any thanks very much, cheers, it's done.
Yeah.
You know, you know what? I can personally relate to that because, we've had very different paths in life, but actually, the celebrity, the Big Brother, Anthony from Big Brother card, I massively struggled with that.
Yeah.
So when I'm hearing you talk there, I'm just nodding, going, that was me.
And again, when people leave, they have dreams of grandeur because the army is very insular, and everything's done for you. Doctors, dentists, you don't really have to do anything. Like you turn up, do your job. When you're soldiering in the UK, if there's no conflict on, it's like the easiest gig in the world. Like you're talking 30 hours a week. You're paid to keep fit. You're paid to be in the spot. Like it's a fairly mundane, boring thing to do. The only time it gets spicy is operational tour. But other than that, it's a fairly straightforward gig.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also similar to the ex-sportsman, the lad who was a footballer. Your kit gets done. You get told when you're getting fed. Everything like that. It's that, and you're in that brotherhood as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So it's that side of it, and then what are you coming out to do?
Yeah.
Because I've talked about this before, but the resettlement process when I went through was a great concept, but delivered poorly. So dreams of grandeur. I'll do a 4-week course and I'll become an electrician and I'll earn 65, 70 grand. It's not realistic. No one actually says to people, if you're leaving as like full screw, corporal, bombardier, sergeant, staff sergeant, these are like mid-managers level. You ain't, I can't say everybody, but I know it took me 2 or 3 years to get back to the level I was. Do you know what I mean? It took me I had to go back down to like 20 grand.
Yeah.
I was like, I've been in 20 grand since I was like 21.
Yeah.
I had a lot of dealings with people coming out of the military in recruitment. A lot, especially in the engineering sector. So they'd come out as a lot from marine engineering.
Yeah.
And then they'd come out and they'd go, right, well, I can just go and work in a factory like Nissan, and I'll be an engineer on 50 grand a year. And it was like, no, the transferable skills are not there. And a lot of employers wanted ex-military. They did, but working in a factory on a 3-shift rotation was completely different to being on a ship for all that time. And it was difficult. And a lot of them, some of them did come out and they did get similar roles. Aerospace engineers, for instance, they were highly sought after from the RAF.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, they didn't have that civilization life skills in order to. And do you think that contributes to PTSD?
I think, and again, I'll talk about my own experience. I got sacked in the first year 3 times from 3 different jobs because I was taught how to deal with a problem is conflict. So if you're in conflict, I'll just be conflict times 10.
Right.
And then that's it. It's resolved. But when you come into civilian way of doing things, you can't. No one wants conflict.
All the training's conflict resolution.
It's conflict. So I got sacked 3 times because I was a nightmare to deal with. Because the moment anyone challenged me, I didn't see it as like that's what I saw it as. Oh, I'm being challenged.
Right. Okay.
Right, okay. I know how to deal with this.
Right. Okay.
You're getting told. Like, there was even a point where I was like, if someone slightly did something to me, I had to like go out my way to like let them know.
Oh, really?
Like, you need to be told.
Right,
Like,
okay.
I didn't even care like what level.
That's just the mindset you
That
come
was just
from.
the mindset. Like, do
Wow.
not let anyone get anything over on you.
Yeah.
And get people told.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that leads.
Well, I
to
know
problems.
there's an ex-military guy that I know, absolute top bloke, and he stuck the nut on someone on the golf course.
Wow.
And
That'll do it.
and there was a lot of things that had happened, but that was the final thing where he went, you know what, I actually need to go and see someone, because what you've touched on there, that mentality, if someone challenges it, you flip it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
100%.
Did you find it tough getting sacked 3 times in a year? How did that affect you mentally?
My ego didn't. Like, I actually loved it. And for a long period of time, like, that was the story that I told. Like, I was proud of that.
Yeah.
I was, like, proud of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wore it as a bit of a badge of honour.
right,
Like,
okay.
which is, I look at that now and I'm like, that's really bad.
Yeah.
Like, and the me now wouldn't like the me of then. In fact, I'd actively, like, I would avoid the me of then. But
Yeah.
I look back now and I just think I had that much of a chip on my shoulder that I wore it as a badge of honour, and I was just like, just get another job, just get another job, just get another job.
So when did that mentality and self-awareness flip, where you looked at yourself and went, you know what, I need to change here?
Yeah, I think, again, it comes down to drinking, drugs, lifestyle choices, and I bought into this. The worst concept ever, the worst saying ever is work hard, play hard. Like, that concept there is rubbish. Because what that really means is go to work, 9 to 5, do what you're supposed to do, and then the weekend, get smashed, but be at work Monday to do it all again.
Yeah,
it completely doesn't make sense, that really, does it?
I lived that throughout my 20s.
Yeah. And
I mean, you worked in recruitment. That's what.
100. It didn't even matter if it was a weekend. It could have been a Monday afternoon. If we'd done a big deal, that was it.
And if you, when I challenge that now, when I say to people, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, it means like you do well at your job and then you go out and celebrate. And I went, well, talk me through this celebration. Is it like going to the cinema? It's never something like chill. It's always like, well, we're going to get wrecked.
Yeah.
And then we know what that means.
Yeah.
So for me, I would do that. I'd go to work, and then I'd go out once a month. But those once a months, insane.
Yeah.
Like,
those once a month weren't once, it was 2 days benders.
It was like meet at Hogan's near the train station, you know, straight on the shots at like 9, half 9. Just get absolutely wrecked, like ruined as quickly as you could, and then just look for trouble. Like, we were fighting all the time. Like, we would just go to Durham, Newcastle. Not even to like have a fight to win a fight, but just to have a fight.
Really,
just to find conflict.
Yeah.
Just to find somebody else who was willing to say, let's have a tear up. Like, there was a time, and again, at the time I wore it as a badge of honour, but looking back now, like, it's an embarrassing thing. But I've woke up in pretty much a lot of the nicks in the northeast.
Right.
And was like, oh man, I'm in Newcastle, Nick, for the night.
Yeah.
Not been here before. Like,
No way.
Yeah.
Like,
That was the mentality.
that was the mentality. And like, phoning my partner at the time saying, I've been nicked, I'll be home tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like,
And
you
was
shouldn't.
this when you had like left the military?
Yeah,
or?
this is like year 1 and a half, year 2, when I was like in my like let's go mental phase.
Well, like what you touched on off camera, you know, how much is in place for military people leaving the military and that training and education and therapy or whatever's needed?
I think there is, but ultimately there was only one person going to save me, and it always comes down back to individualism, choice. So like, you can find it if you want help, you can find it, but you need to have that like moment where you go, this isn't really going how I thought, and I need to change it, and I need to start looking at different things. So like, I no longer drink. I haven't been drunk for about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And because being drunk won't take me anywhere that I want to go anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a completely dead vessel for me now.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not around drunk people, so I just completely disassociate myself from people. And I think when you run a business or you're a leader or you're doing something, show me where you can ditch 24 hours of your day.
Yeah.
Show me.
I'll be honest. I'm in that process now,
Yeah.
so it'd be worth having a chat off camera because I'm in that journey now, effectively, where I'm trying not to be drunk as much because I was a terrible drunk.
And I'm not like out there preaching to people like, come in and tell me a story about how I don't drink anymore and how much I'm so much better than you. Like, it's not that.
Totally.
It's just a personal choice, right? I just think, because if like, again, in my 20s, you couldn't have said to me, John, what are you doing drinking? I'd be like, give over. Like, You come to the realization when you come to the realization. I just don't have the time.
Yeah. Same here.
To feel terrible anymore. Like,
And
I
you
just don't have the time.
it still has a little bit of that stigma. If you say that you're not drinking, you'll get, why not?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, I was coming back from an event I ran in Scotland, and again, I drove and I thought, I'm getting tired, so I found it, on the app, found a hotel, Bosch, booked it, went there, stayed, and they had, I've not seen this before, but they had Heineken Zero, but on like a draft.
Yeah.
Right.
I was
Okay.
like, I don't mind a Heineken Zero. And I'm sitting down having my dinner, and then some two fellas walked in and said to the barmaid, like, oh, what have you got on draft? And she was like, this, and this. And then she said, oh, we've got Heineken Zero. And the guy went, what's the point of Heineken Zero? And I made some like weird comparison that didn't make any sense. And he was like, I can't believe people drink that. And I just thought, it's still, and what you're saying there, I was like, oh, it's still a stigma in it. It's
big
still
time.
a stigma.
Yeah, massively.
And I'll tell you why I like it, because I used to like having a bottle of beer with my dinner.
Yeah.
So it's still the mind saying,
Yeah.
oh, the cold taste. Because Heineken Zero for me tastes like Heineken.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get some great like zeros out there now. Like what did I have? Guinness Zero. The Guinness Zero is actually really good.
Yeah.
And
I think Heineken Zero from like a boring sort of side, I think it's like 50 calories.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I'm lucky, so I actually don't like the taste of lager. I'd much prefer a cup of tea or.
Wow.
And so you stay, being off the drinks not particularly hard for me.
Yeah.
But like you touched on, work hard, play hard. Like I operate so much better. How can you operate better with a hangover? Like surely not.
And what could you have done with that time?
Yeah, but like you said, you don't want to preach, and I'm conscious of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like I said, I've had a past where it was drink. There's drugs and everything like that.
Because preaching just pushes people away.
Yeah.
That's all it does. It gets people's backs up. It's the same with like, I can listen to someone who's vegan, but if you come at me like with a military vegan point of view, I'm like, not interested.
Yeah.
But if you try and explain it in a different way, then you have a much better way of bringing people over than saying,
and have a conversation about it.
Yeah, rather than being with a seasoning of aggression towards it. It's
Yeah.
like, whoa, like
I didn't sign up for this. 100%.
Yeah.
So going back to your army days, you've talked about like some of the negatives and coming out and the anger and things like that. What was the positives from being in the army? What did you learn that made you the man you are now?
I mean, the army makes unbelievable leaders. It just does. It forces you to learn so much about yourself and belief. Like the belief that I've got is the belief the British Army give me. And like all traveling the world, I lived in Belize for 6 months. Like I've done a lot of things that without joining the army wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah.
So, going through that is class. Like, I would say surviving conflicts like Afghan is like a major achievement because like Afghan was like full on rock and roll.
Yeah.
So like, it's a good thing because I always say my level of resilience sits at, I've fought the Taliban twice.
Wow.
So whatever the world wants to throw at me now, I've got a really high tolerance for like where I'll go, Jesus, that makes me. And I feel like that's why I've moved towards all this different stuff because I'm almost trying to find something where I almost go, I can't do that.
Right.
Like, it's too much for me.
Right.
And yet, because of other things, I haven't found that yet.
What specifically were you in the army?
So I was in the Royal Artillery, and I served in Germany for a while, and then I switched and I came back over to the UK. And funnily enough, I left Germany because I wanted to be in England more. And then in England, I was away more than I was ever home in Germany. So there's like a sense of irony. I moved to Catterick to be home more, and then was away the most I've ever been.
And what's the say when you go through adversity together, that just brings togetherness? What was the brotherhood like when you were out in...
Germany was insane.
Was it?
Yeah, Germany was like a whole level of tribalism like you've never seen. Like, insane. Again, because it's a load of working class lads and lasses thrown together in the pot in Germany.
Yeah.
So I joined the North East Gunners, so you had people from all over the North East, and then every now and again, like a random Scot or someone from Wales would come, and they'd be accepted in our little groups, and like, it was good. Like, I still speak to some of those lads now, but like, it is and then when you go to Canada and on the exercises to Kenya, and you have all these great shared experiences. Yeah, you do create a crazy bond with people for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to tie the army in with what we do here in our retreats. We've had some ex-military guys on our retreats, and we see them thrive in just because of what we do. We get out into nature for a walk. Well, they love that because it's like it's what they're used to. Then the fitness aspect, they love that because they find themselves pushing themselves again. And then the cold water, it almost seems too easy for them because they're used to it and they already know how to control their bodies. But we encourage like more, if you're ex-military, you will thrive in the environment of our retreats. If you're struggling or you want to feel that brotherhood again, come along to our events. Yeah. I know you've promised you're coming along. I'm holding you to it.
Yeah, no.
Did he promise?
I'll come along.
But yeah, like ex-military, and we've always said that we want to do more. Yeah. With vets, with
where they won't do well, because there's a thing that I've created, and I call it rah-rah, which is masculine energy, and woo-woo, which is feminine soft energy. So when I was going through like I don't want to use the word journey, but self-discovery, all of the stuff like big challenges, all the big masculine, let's do this, let's do that, that was all in my stride. Where I really struggled is where I had to have honest questions and answers with myself about where I was as a human being and what was my relationships like with people. Was I taking my partner of 20 years for granted? Can you go and have those difficult conversations? Can you go and be vulnerable? Can you allow yourself to be vulnerable? Or do you have to constantly keep the shield up? Because eventually the shield will drop, and that's where lads. Yeah. So if you come at ex-army people from like a vulnerability side, they'll hate to be vulnerable. They always want to show strength. But I think the real strength comes from people who can be vulnerable and just fucking own the life out of it.
Well, you know what? One of our main messages is talking vulnerability is a strength. It's not a weakness. And that's something when I go and do guest speaking at companies or wherever I do it, like, I just open up about my own personal life experience. Definitely. I'm extremely vulnerable, and I talk about all of them losses. And I think when you share them stories, though, as a man, I think it can help and give the nudge to blokes who might not necessarily talk or show vulnerability and show, actually, you know what, if he's talking about it, it's actually not weak, and it's trying to change that. It's trying to, but we try to tackle the projects all around about tackling male suicide, men's mental health, and 3/4 of reported suicide are male, and I think if you speak to women, and this is something that I do in my talk as well, they talk on a regular basis about the insecurities, body image, anxiety. Blokes don't do that. So based on how bad the stats are, do we change our mentality?
Yeah, I think we need to change our mentality, and when I see a lot of things online, like, there's always an element of, I need to tell you how fast I did something or how heavy that bar was, or do you know what I mean? It needs to be like a number or a metric. Yeah. And it's like, who's that metric for? Like, I'll use it because a lot of people understand it. So the National Three Peaks Challenge, a lot of people do that challenge, and what I see from young men is, we fucking smashed it in
Yeah,
19 hours, 40 minutes, we're beasts, we're animals. But like, who's that time for, lads? Like, you're not competing on like the 100 meters against elite athletes. There's no one that's like vetted this. So it's just a time anyone could put out there.
Yeah.
But it's almost like we need to say, I've done this in this time and I'm better than you. Or I'm the daddy. And I used to do that all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
We always big dick syndrome. It's, you've got to.
I call it, the humble brag, I call it.
Yeah.
That's what, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the humble brag.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about, positives.
Yeah.
What were the lows?
God, in the army, definitely, like, obviously when you join the army, death is associated. And though I didn't have anyone who was like best friend, there was a guy, James Dwyer, who I went through training with, who was killed in Afghan before I went. And like, that was hard because like I knew him, like we went to pizza together, and like, when I heard he died, like I remember thinking, fucking hell, he was a great bloke.
Yeah.
Like, and you go, well, there's actually better soldier than me. And if he's passed away, what chance do I have? And then there was a lad from Bishop Auckland who died, and he died on the Afghan was called Operation Herrick, and he died on the Herrick before I was training to go while he was there, and he died, and I always remember thinking, fucking hell, like I think he died in the February, and I was going in like the April, and I was like,
wow,
fucking hell, that's a reality.
I'm a lad from Bishop Auckland.
That's real stuff.
Yeah, because you can relate it. Because like, though I didn't know him, like I knew his family, very similar age, very similar backgrounds, like drank in the same pubs, ate in the same restaurants, like just changed the profile.
Go on.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I think I would have loved the military in terms of the brotherhood, but I'll be perfectly honest though. Going out to fight to risk my life, I don't know where that would probably be the thing that I would go, whoa, I'm not in actually.
Yeah, no, and again, I did Iraq and I did Afghan, went to Northern Ireland, but towards the end of the sort of troubles that were there, and I wasn't paid to think. I paid to do.
Yeah.
And like, I went as a young lad who was deeply proud to be in the British Army. So like that side of it, I never looked at it from anybody else's like point of view. But like as I get older now, and last year someone challenged me on it actually at like a speaker's dinner, and her model of the world, and this is where we'll bring NLP into this, because if she'd have spoke to me like she did 2 years ago, I'd have turned the restaurant upside down.
Yeah.
Because I'd have just gone, you what? Because she literally just shitted on my body of work in the army.
Right.
And like me from 2 years ago would have been like, start taking hostages now. Like, we'll figure it out, John. Do you know what I mean? Like that's where I would have gone.
Yeah.
But instead I was like, well, look, that's your model of the world. But me and you have grown up. Where did you? And she told me where she grew up. And I said, well, I grew up in a northern working class council estate called Bishop Auckland. When they were handing out privilege, believe me when I say this, they ain't any being handed out.
Yeah.
My mum was a receptionist and my dad was a lorry driver.
Yeah.
I did really shit at school. I had two choices. I joined the army. I went to work in a factory called EBAC. That was my choices.
Still there.
I was like, so that was my choices. And I said, one of them said I can travel around the world and have a great time and get well paid. And the other one said,
you can make
we have
tellies.
Wonder Off. Yeah. And I was like, so it was a no-brainer. Yeah. And it's like, and it's not for me as an 18, 19, 20-year-old lad, to go into an organisation like the British Army and go, well, actually, I'm against all of this, so I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Because that will not end well for you.
Yeah.
I said, so how does someone so small and significant, how would you have made the change?
Yeah.
And what it really was, she had a massive issue with like the old British Empire. And I was like, the question I put to her was, well, the British weren't the first people to have an empire. What about everybody else who's been on the empire scale?
Yeah.
We've done it since the dawn of time. And I was like, and the new empires now are Netflix and Amazon.
Yeah. I just want to jump back to your really young age. How old were you when you first went to Afghan?
2008, do some basic maths. I want to say I was 24, 25. Okay.
So we get blokes of all ages from 18 right up to 60, etc. on the retreats, and same with watching. How is a 24-year-old, because 24 I feel is very young. I was incredibly immature as a 24-year-old. How at 24, seeing two local lads go out to Afghan, lose their lives in battle, your training to go out there, your mentality at that time must have been all over the place. How did you deal with it?
I'll tell you what as well, when we went, so we went as a small body, so we were always attached to we were attached to the infantry, and what we did is we had a radar that located enemy mortar fire. So there was only two of us, and I was the commander because I was a lance jack at the time. So I had somebody with me. So not only was I responsible for me, but I was also responsible for him. And this radar was actually like a really critical piece of equipment. So then I ended up on like what you call an O group, which is an orders group, where you've got all the senior heads of sheds, captains, colonels, sergeant majors, like big players who've been in the forces a long time. They'd go around the room and then they'd like come to me like, "What have you got to say?" And I'd have to chime in and give me bits. So like it's massive sink or swim, and in that environment there isn't any time to like. It's a cliche thing, but obviously the training comes in, and you know what you need to do. And guess what? There's no mobile phones, there's no nightclubs, there's no restaurants, there is no distraction. All you can do is soldier. So all there is to do is soldier.
Yeah.
And like sleep when you can sleep, eat when you can eat, and just do what you do, and that's it. So like you just I landed in Afghan, and within 72 hours I was attached to 3 para, and we were out on something called a MOG, which is like a big mobile patrol in the desert. And I was like, literally 4 days ago I was in Bishparkland, and now I'm in the desert in Afghan, setting up an anti-mortar radar, working with the paras who I've never worked with before, all these new relationships that has to be built. And obviously, so there's a thing there because I'm artillery, they're the paras, so there's like a level of like, we're the paras, you're the artillery, so there's like, already we're not the same, but we're all in here fighting the same cause, so there's kind of like forced alliances. So like you've got that to overcome.
Is it very much kept separate?
It is in the UK,
is it?
But
Right,
like
okay.
on operations, regimental, like, oh, we don't like them and they don't like us, and that
Right.
kind of gets put to one side.
Right,
But
okay.
again, it's still quite an intimidating
Wow.
sort of environment to rock up with, because you are new and you're fresh and you're green.
Oh
and
yeah.
Like, like I remember like the first night just lying in the desert thinking, this is insane.
You can't get
absolutely
you know
nuts.
listening to it though. I'm fascinated with military stories, and I really am. I find them so interesting. But you can't get your head round that type of stuff. Like you said, Bishop Auckland.
I didn't phone home. I didn't phone home for 13 weeks because it was in the desert, and like there was like 1 or 2 sat phones between like however many blokes there was, and just never did it.
Wow.
Didn't get any mail. Didn't get any phone calls.
And did you? Your headspace? How did you cope with it?
Yeah, because you have to. So
Right.
you just go, this is how it is, so this is how it is. And you just get on with it. And then when the op ended, we all went back to Bastion, which was like the main base. And then like, I remember that was the first time we had like proper cooked food and could phone and could get a haircut and could like wash your clothes. I mean, I didn't wash my clothes for 13 weeks.
But there's a high percentage of like SAS and military from the northeast. I think Scotland as well.
Yeah.
Do you think that
rough.
core roughness?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It'll come down to lads and lasses coming from working class, not all, but a lot.
Yeah.
Who are used to that grew up in tough houses, multi-family, discipline.
Yeah.
Like it
And
goes hand in hand.
Yeah. And I think although there's huge pluses, but the northeast is the worst region for suicide.
Yeah.
And again, it's that tough guy mentality of not wanting to show weakness. I think that plays a part. I think it also plays a huge part as well.
Honestly, without a shadow of a doubt, I think it's why people from this region do well in the forces.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them have come from that background, so it's not really that much of a. Though phase 1 training, I can only talk about my experience, was fucking tough, and I don't know where the boundary is between bullying and character building.
Yeah.
But they sit very close. Like
The cousins.
very close, like loosely holding hands for sure.
Right.
'Cause there was times where I was like, I think I'm being bullied. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this bullying?
I've watched your TEDx talk, and you touch on that.
100%. But ultimately, whatever happens in training is never as like, it's to train you for war. And like, I've been in armed conflicts, and definitely the first Afghan, I would class that as a war.
Yeah.
Like, nothing that went on in training was anywhere near as bad as that. Like,
Yeah.
so I think training has to be where it has to be.
Yeah.
And then you just need great instructors and leaders to know we're crossing the threshold a bit.
Yeah. So we want to obviously hear a bit about the NLP section and what you're doing at the moment with your leadership. But just before we finish that, because we normally finish it with the best story, but I think you might have a couple. So before we tie
That you're allowed to say.
Yeah, before we tie up the military section, do you want to give us your best story from your years of service? And also, I'd like to thank you for your service and for what you've done for the country as well.
Yeah, best story from the military. I mean, as far as like, so I was in Afghan 2008, and my tour ended early because I got a phone call saying, do you want to go to Belize in January? Now, this is like roughly end of September, start of October. And I was like, for 6 months. And they're like, yeah, and I had no expectation of Belize. I'd never even really heard of Belize. I was like, yeah, sure thing. And like, within 4 months, I've gone from like war fighting to being on an island in Central America, drinking Belizean beer. And I was literally in charge of speedboat fuel, sleeping bags, and rooms. And I was like, my mind was like, is this like, am I dead or something? Like, is this a thing? Because it took me so long to accept my new reality of like being in Belize. Like, Belize was fucking unreal. Like, it was just class. And like, I was just on this island with one other soldier, and we just ran the adventure training centre. And like every day I'd wake up with like the best view you've ever seen.
Really?
I had like 2 hours worth of work to do all week, max. And then all I did was I went and got like my speedboat license. And I just drove up and down the coast on the speedboats.
Oh, no way.
Visiting different islands. And I was just like,
that's unbelievable.
how can polar opposite?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I didn't come off the rails is because I was isolated again in Belize.
Yeah.
Didn't really have anything to do apart from that, which was just chilling and decompress. But like, Belize was also an incredibly dangerous place because like it just was.
Right, okay.
And there was like all these different characters and people, just big characters. And Belize was just like a place of, it's almost like time has forgot Belize.
Yeah.
There's no fast food restaurants. There was
And
no...
where is it?
Central America. It sits
Right.
on the coast with like Guatemala and Mexico. And,
Oh, wow.
And leading into this, Belize shared a border with Mexico, but like not tourist Mexico at
Right.
all. And there was
Cartel Mexico.
yeah, like full cartel Mexico. And I was like, oh, the place is called Chatamal. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go. So I got the bus from Belize City to the border. Like, I'm the only gringo on the bus, right?
Right.
And I get to the border checkpoint, and like the police are there, and I walk up. I thought I'd be smart. I'll wear a Barcelona shirt. Like,
Well, I don't know. Like, there's a lot Brazilians like
Yeah,
Barcelona.
so
and
like-
all
It's a
this-
Spanish connection.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
Spanish
so
connection.
I gets to like passport control, and they were like, "The fuck's this guy?" Do you know what I mean? and obviously, like, I'd learned a tiny bit of Spanish. Like, I could order food, I could do this, I could do that, but not like I couldn't have a proper conversation. But I remember them taking me, like, someone took me to one side and was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I've come to visit the town."
Come for holiday.
And he was like, "No." He was like, "This isn't a place for for you just to be walking around. And I was like, oh, right. And he was like, where you planning on going? And I said, like, here. And he said, go there, but you can't leave. Don't go anywhere else.
But the thing
I
is,
was like,
though,
holy shit.
the thing is, though, listening to your stories, though, what you've done, what you've been through, the experiences you've had, you're probably not going to be phased by doing much. So
Like,
doing something like that's not much to you.
To be fair, I wasn't phased, but then when I got there, I was like, holy shit. This is like cartel.
No way.
And I was like, basically, I was just in the mall for the entire day. Just didn't leave the mall. And then just got a taxi back to the hotel I was staying at. And then got out of there the next day because I was like, yeah, this isn't a place where you could just be like, like you're going missing here.
If you walk the street, you'll be shot.
I think you'd have definitely been challenged, robbed. Like you would have been challenged. And because they don't speak a lot of English and my Spanish wasn't like up there.
What, did you not know how to say what a phenomenal time to be
Well,
alive?
no, that wasn't a part.
We need to find that. I bet that sounds fun.
I'm going to deliver that in Spanish. But yeah, no, like, but it was a great experience because then I came back from there and someone was like, "What, you've been to Chatham Mall?" I was like, "Yeah, it was all right." They're like, "It's like the fucking Mexican cartel capital of the world." I was like, "Was it? All right."
Wow.
Anyway, that's in the passport.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah.
Wow.
So lead us on to what you're doing now because it's quite inspiring. You're obviously, well, tell me because I'm still a bit.
So by hook or by crook, I ended up falling into helping business owners get away from destructive habits. Business owners are distracted. They prioritize the wrong things. They worry about the wrong things. They allow things that they can't control to come into the world. But they don't do what they need to do, and that's look after themselves. So it started with taking one guy out and about, and it's a true story. And he contacted me on Instagram, and it was late. And I was like, yeah, if someone sends you a message at fucking midnight saying, all right, mate, could we have a chat? That's a sign.
Yeah.
So, like, I just found where he worked, rang him, and literally said to whoever she was on the phone, I said, yeah, it's for so-and-so. And she's like, oh, what's it reference? I said, tell him it's reference not being shit. And it was just like, and he put him through. And then we did Rosebery Topping. And this is where the Rosebery Topping thing comes from. So I was like, I'll pick you up. We'll go and do Rosebery Topping. And we'll just have a talk and a walk and all that jazz. And then as we got to Rosebery Topping, he realised where he was physically. Like, he was trashed. We talked about habits and all that jazz. And then coming down off Rosebery Topping, he was like, so how do I work with you for the year? And I was like, fucking hell, for the year. And I literally just came up with something on the fly. Didn't lie to him. I just said, no one's ever asked to work with me for the year, so let me like come back to you.
Yeah.
I literally went back to him and said, that's what it looked like. That's how much
You
it
did
cost.
a tailored program for him.
So yeah. So he basically started the thing now I call like my adventure program. So like,
Yeah, were you the CEO adventurer then?
No. That hadn't really kicked in yet. That was something else. So like he was the first one, and because I was seen out with him all the time, his business owner friends, CEOs, people were like, "Oh, I can see a massive change in you. Who's this guy? What's this guy about?" And then as you start getting on different levels, different devils, I went on my own retreat with a woman called Sammy Bindell, who we paid to come and like be the keynote speaker. And she was all about, like, she built a lot of businesses, and she was all about building brands. You've got to become the brand. And she was like, your name's shit. That's shit. You can't use that anymore. This is what you're going to be called. So Sammy Bindell called me. She literally went away, like brainstormed herself and come back and she went, you're now known as the John Beamson, the CEO adventurer.
Yeah.
And she's like, there you go.
Great, and you know what? It's fantastic because when I got Johnny Harrison told me to get in touch with you.
Mint.
And I'd got so I found you, and then I was like, the CEO adventurer. I've seen this guy.
Yeah.
So it just shows you the power of branding.
So the CEO adventure is your fame name.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, because someone might go, CEO adventurer, what's his name?
Yeah.
And it's what you're going to be known for.
Yeah.
So, and again, on LinkedIn, if you have to tag me, you've got to write that.
I knew you as that name.
Yeah,
I'll be perfectly honest.
Well,
I knew
there you go.
You were the CEO adventurer.
Yeah.
John Beamson.
Yeah, exactly that. So it enters the room before you enter the room.
Yeah.
And then
That's interesting.
And I can second that because the other day when you told me
Yeah,
about
you
John,
did.
Yeah.
I'd said, I've seen him on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So it's that. And
Yeah.
then again though, she told me what I was doing was shit and it wasn't going to work. The old me would have been like, well, she know. I fought the Taliban twice.
Yeah.
Irrelevant. She's
Yeah.
built multiple businesses. She's mega successful. If that's what she's saying, it's going to work, then we embrace that. And this is another side of it. I had another business at the time called Robust Tours, and I used to run ultra distance challenge events. And what it was is I had an event coming up in the March. The retreat was in the November, and she was like, "You can't run that event in March because it's going to distract you. You're going to waste too much time between now and March. You can't run that event. You need to refund." And I refunded 55 people, 125 quid, the week before Christmas,
That must have been
Wow.
tough.
because it wasn't going to run, and I was closing it down, and I thought it's an unnecessary distraction. So I ended Robust Tours, refunded everybody who'd paid to do an ultra, and just fucking went hard on the CEO Adventurer. Managed to land like 2 clients who were already in my network, by the way. So when I tell people your answers are in your own network, came up with something, came up with the adventure program, came up with the Lone Survivor that I do now, got it in front of the right people, loved it, said yes.
Wow.
Here we
That's awesome.
Yeah, like
That's a great. It's hearing you talk though. I can take some things from that because me and Craig, we've got a lot going on with this project. We both work in our normal jobs as well, and it's just trying to prioritize. You know, what do you want, and what's your goals?
And we're also looking for a trigger point as where we go, right,
out.
we're out,
Yeah.
and this is everything for us.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's tough
Oh,
at the
it's
minute,
ninja.
you know. And
Yeah.
obviously for you, it worked out well.
Well, look, it comes. What happens is you keep on going, and then all of a sudden, I was like, I'm at that point where I need to take investment. So what that really means is I need to borrow someone else's money to build
Yeah,
my dream, which is fine, but understand that money's got to be paid back, and every month they're coming back for it.
Yeah.
So when some people say they're bootstrapping it, I think, yeah, but there's a person or a company or somebody else who isn't, and they're going to overtake you. So again, that's a mentality thing, because I think in business, you're going to have to be okay with spending other people's money and paying it back, because I think it's a part of it. Because every time I've took money, I've borrowed it, paid it back, grown, borrowed it, paid it back, grown. Like, otherwise, yeah, you can bootstrap it and you can go out there and try and make more sales and get more money in. But sometimes you've just got to say, I need to borrow some money. And then
Yeah.
because it's going
to
to
get to the
allow
next
me
level.
to
Yeah.
go at the next level. And like, so I paid for the NLP coaching, I paid for the website, I paid for like speakers, professional speaking courses, like, and lots of other things that I had to do to allow myself to get into the next room with CEOs of 6.5, 7-figure businesses.
So when you said you got investment, you lent money. So what was that for then? Was that what you've just touched on?
Yeah, so I got it. When was that? September last year. I got it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, borrow the money. I wrote a list of what I needed and roughly how much it was going to cost. And then I borrowed probably maybe it's $5,000 more than that. And then I was like, so that $5,000 there, that's just going to sit in my bank. And if it doesn't start happening as quickly, I've still got a bit of a buffer. Mm-hmm. But because of the way I am anyway, like, I'm constantly on it. So
Yeah.
like we just went again. But you need a website. You need to have a professional coaching qualification behind you. You need to invest in yourself. Because I always think if you're going to ask people for proper money for stuff, then you've got to be playing at a certain level, and they're going to expect to see certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just are.
Yeah.
You can't, like, there was a chap a few weeks ago, LinkedIn content writer. He asked me for 1,500 quid a month times 4. So that's $6,000 if anyone who's shit at maths, right? But he didn't have a website. And I was like, for that sort of money, why haven't you got, like, you should have a website.
Yeah.
Where's your website?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Just for the credibility.
So
It's the credibility. Totally.
It's the touch point. So
Yeah.
like, if you're going to say to someone, to do Lone Survivor, it's this much money, and they'll go, right, but where the fuck's your website?
Yeah.
Like, you don't even have a website.
Yeah.
So certain people want to check, like, some people might look at your LinkedIn and go, oh, there's enough LinkedIn there for me to go, I'm happy with who he says he is.
Yeah.
Other people are going to be like, well, website, I want to have a little nosy around the website, or I want to see, like, I did a podcast last year, but I just did it as proof of life. So I got 6 of my clients I'd worked with and got them on a podcast.
Yeah.
And that's because I know people listen to podcasts, and I know CEOs and business owners listen to podcasts. And I've had it already where people said to me, oh yeah, I've listened to Simon's podcast, it was brilliant. Proof of life. Proof of like, oh, he works with him and he's a real person. And it allows that, it builds that level of trust. And I always think, like, if you haven't got certain things,
100%.
you're going to hit a barrier.
100%.
You need certain things to get into certain rooms.
100%, yeah. I train barbering. There's actually no rules. I could just set up Anthony Hutton barbering. I wanted to work with City and Guilds NVQ, the credibility, and I think you're totally right on that. Touch on the Lone Survivor stuff. Then what is that?
Yeah, so I applied to go on to a TV show that was 2 years ago, and it really made me go, oh, fucking
Big
hell,
Brother.
No, it was called Naked and Alone Running Home. So the premise was you got dropped off naked.
No.
And put with like a member of the opposite sex. Over 3 days, you had to then like work together to get to the finish.
What? Both like, naked?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the show aired. Basically, what I did was, in my old former business, I played a bit of a character. Like, I dialed my persona up to 10. So like, I played almost like a WWE character. So I would like attack sort of influences who I didn't like, but in a funny, like, James Smith sort of way. Do you know what I mean? I do parody stuff. So I got like a good following. And then when the TV company approached me, because they approached me, I just played a character. So for the whole time of the process, every time they rang me, every time I went on a Zoom, every time like they asked me to do something, I just played this character because I knew they want entertainment.
And what was the character to like?
Well, like, I just played like a overconfident, straight down your throat. I even like said to the guy who was going to be directing, I was like, so just make that checkout. This was like 2 or 3 weeks into the process. When you write my name, do you know? I said to him, do you know how to spell my surname? And he said, yeah. I went, well, that's fucking great because it'll make it easy on the check, won't it? And he went, oh, you're that confident? I said, there's nobody who you can bring on this show that laces my boots. And I thought, that's probably the line that gets it. And like the handler I had absolutely loved me. And I used to send my handler like WhatsApps at like 3 a.m. saying, it's showtime, baby. And like they ate into it because it's like
I'd done this. Yeah, I'd done the same. It's funny you mentioned that when I got on Big Brother.
Yeah.
It got turned up full 10, and I came across sometimes a bit of a dick.
Yeah. No. And again, what did me in is I got to the day before the show, and like they binned me off the show the day before traveling on the show. And
so you'd got the nod?
Oh yeah, I was on. I was going to be on the first episode with the other like big characters, and we'd had like a meeting, and they'd almost sent like the contract over of like what you can and can't do, and I was like, oh, what's been advertised is not what's fucking like on the list.
Right.
And I was like, because like the pilot show that they did, they just fucking let these people go off, and it was just like, I was like, oh, I love it. But then it was like, you've got to stay naked the entire time. And I was like, in a survival situation, I'm okay starting naked, but I would have gone and found like, you've got to cover yourself, do you know what I mean? And I was like, and I challenged it and said, look, how are you making like some sort of like naked and attraction thing, but like in the outdoors? Because if you are, like, I'm not interested in that. Yeah. And there's like, you can't do this and you can only travel this far in a day. And I was like,
by the way, this program sounds mad.
It's ran.
Really? It's been on?
It's been on, yeah.
E4. I've seen it.
It was on E4. So basically what happened was I didn't get the show. I was pissed off because I put a lot, like 6 months. You've been through the process of getting on TV. So I put big effort into getting on TV. And then I got a big disappointment. More adversity, boys and girls. You're not on it. You binned. We think you're going to be a fucking nightmare. I would have been a nightmare, by the way. Great choice. But I would have been fucking 10 out of 10 TV. I know that much.
Yeah.
So I had all this time because the show was a week, and I was like, I've got a week, nothing in the diary. So I thought to myself, it's happened for me or it's happened to me, and it's my mind to decide which one that is.
Yeah.
So I did the Weardale Way, which is like a long distance trail in the northeast. Finishes in Roker over 2 days. It was like 80 mile, and I just said to Emma, my partner, I just said, look, I need to just fucking go and blast something out because my head's on fire, and I need just. And as I was like walking on the trail, I was like, that concept of like getting dropped off in the unknown, getting here, figuring all that shit out, it's a bit like business. And in my mind, because I just started going and I was like, so I'm starting here and I'm finishing here and I've got to work out where I'm going to camp and where out. And I was like, yeah, think about it. And I had 48 hours to think about this concept. And then I thought about what business is, resource management, time management, energy management, all of that. So I just fucking dropped it in a pot, stirred it, and was like, fuck me, that's an amazing event. So then
Oh, wow.
and then I created an event called Lone Survivor. And then from there, there's now Lone Survivor Summer, Lone Survivor Winter, and Lone Survivor Scotland.
Oh, wow.
And in September, we run Lone Survivor Scotland with a girl called Rebecca Dawson, who was the first person to say yes to doing Lone Survivor. She completed the first event last year, and then she's taken on, like, Scotland is the next level challenge. So that's that, and then I've got 3 business owners this year taking on Lone Survivor Winter. So,
wow. You know what? It's they never throw in the towel. Keep on living. Those were the words that came out from my grandma's eulogy.
Oh, wow.
Wow. You know, my grandma brought me up.
Yeah.
One of the saddest moments of me life. And there's a quote that we heard last week a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. In every adversity carries with it the seed of a greater or equal benefit, and that what you've just touched on there,
definitely,
just shows you.
And again, if I'd have gone on the show, I wouldn't have thought about Lone Survivor.
Yeah. It's mad. That's how it works.
So,
isn't it?
like, do you know what I mean? But that's how that came about, and then that's something I sort of run as a bit of it's a part of what I do, because ultimately, what it is, it's the greatest business event you could ever take on, because I take everything off you, not your clothes, because I can't get insurance for that. But like,
would you if you could?
If I found someone who really wanted to like commit, I wouldn't, and we could work through why they wanted to do it, and it was had a clear business sense. I'd be like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Right.
I can run, and then there's a lot of time and effort and planning goes into those events, because you go off alone in the wilderness, and like, I need to make sure that I've got it in you to do it. But again,
how long is it?
Over a 24-hour period.
24-hour period.
Yeah. So the premise is, I actually did my own version last year because a guy was booked on. He had a personal tragedy. He couldn't do the event. The hotel was booked, and this was booked, and the staff was booked. And I just said, look, I'll do it. I'll do my own event. So take your phone off you, take your money off you. You have to go old school, map and compass. And what you really get there is you get time with yourself. So obviously, when I did it, I said to the girl, like, blindfold me, earmuff me, drop me off in the middle, like full exercise conditions, no favour given. So she like created a route for me, dropped me off. And then she's like, yeah, the finish is at so-and-so. And I was like, right, sound, see it. And I just fucking got on with it. But actually what was what I thought I'd created actually during the event, because you've got no distraction. There's only you in your own brain.
You're by yourself.
So you're fucking solo in it.
Wow.
So there's no one to talk to.
Wow.
So there's all your decisions are yours.
Wow.
So you're on it. And I remember like a certain point where, like, as I was walking, like a voice, like almost someone like said to me, hey, how do you think you managed your dad's death? Like just out the fucking blue.
Wow.
Like I was like, oh, let's not have that conversation. No. Like now's the perfect time to have that conversation. And I was like, oh, fuck. And like I had to sit down for half an hour.
Wow.
Because I was like, where the fuck is that? Because you know when we're surrounded by lots of noise and distraction, things that we should deal with. We don't. Oh, I'm busy. I'm doing this. I'm on the pot, and like.
Wow.
But when you've got nothing, it's got nothing to stop it from rising. So because I had so much time on my own, no mobile phone, no social media, no phone calls, nothing. So like, them hours of just walking along. Once like all that noise had gone out of my mind and there was absolutely nothing left. Like it was almost like my subconscious went, "Hey, do you think you saw your dad enough before he died?" And I was like, "Fucking hell!"
Wow.
Like, and I was like, "I don't want to answer it." And like I had that conversation with myself, and like I remember sitting down in the field, like crying my fucking eyes out, and then I had to like, all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've still got to finish this event, by the way, and I'm still 20k away from the finish, and I've got 4 hours worth of light. We'll do that maths." And I was like, "Fucking."
And did you? So that came up, and did you?
I had to deal with it.
Did you deal with it? And you
I had
went.
to deal with it.
You spoke to the other.
I had to have like a one-on-one conversation with myself, and I had to be like mega honest with myself, and it was fucking a hard conversation to have. And when I finished, like the girl who ran it, Rebecca, she was like, "Are you all right?" I was like, "Fucking hell, I feel like I've done like."
Like I bet I can imagine though with that being so emotional.
Yeah,
doing something like that.
It was almost like an out-of-body experience. Now, Rebecca, who'd done the first one, had said something to me. And she said something, and it didn't really resonate at the time. But after I did it, I was like, I fucking know exactly what she means now. Like, I know exactly what she means because I've just gone through it. It was like, it's like doing, what's that drug they all do? Ayahuasca.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's like an out-of-body
Right,
experience where I was like, yeah, where the fuck did that question come from?
With them natural highs, the cold water,
Yeah.
they're unbelievable
Yeah,
highs.
so like that was that, and then
Without digging too deep though, did that help you deal with obviously losing your dad more, or do you
know
think
what?
it's brought more?
it brought more questions.
Did it?
Yeah, it brought more questions. I'd have thought because my dad, though, when he passed away, was like mega ill, and like Parkinson's. Once you get like one of the big diseases, others follow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your whole immune system.
You're compromised, aren't you?
Yeah.
So like, I get it because my dad was ill for a long time. He was quite negative to be around, and because I'm quite positive, I was always like, I don't want to go and see my dad. I'd almost find things to do so I didn't have to go and see him.
Right. Okay.
And again, they're always going to be there until they're not.
Yeah.
And like that, when that was that realization, like you just can't go and see your dad anymore. That opportunity's gone.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? And like that conversation was like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
So now I spend, so example, Sunday just gone, I went down to my mum's. Like I'm not massively into football, but I went and watched the football with my mum.
Yeah.
To you know what I mean? Because at one point I'd have been like, nah, I'll watch it with my mates, I'll watch it with Emma. But like again, and that comes from self-awareness as well, by the way. Like,
yeah. Were you close to your dad?
yeah, I mean, I was towards the end, not so, because I get it. He was negative because he was mega ill.
Yeah.
And how would you say it's a phenomenal time to be alive when you're fucking going blind, or you're struggling to walk, or things don't work as they used to work, like, and you just sit in the house all the time. Like, it doesn't matter how positive you are, it's your environment that allows you to be positive.
Yeah.
I'm positive because I'm out doing what I want all the time. Stick me in a room for fucking 28 days and come back to me and open the door and go, how are you doing?
Yeah. So how have you bounced back from it?
Well, NLP. So neuro-linguistic programming.
Say that again?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Right.
It's how we think, it's what we say, body language, how we communicate with other human beings, understanding signs, understanding yourself, understanding, you'll hear me say, my model of the world. So I work with people who subscribe to my model of the world. And basically that's how you don't ever get into conflict, because you only get into conflict with people, and I don't mean fisticuff conflict, but because you work with people who don't share what we class as your values.
Yeah.
So now I communicate like straight away my values with people I work with.
And if I'm guessing before you done that, you're someone who struck me with a very good mindset yourself. But did you learn so much from doing that?
NLPs, again, when we talk about levels, NLPs took me into a new level.
Really?
Because it's about understanding human beings, and there's a deep level of sort of psychology to everything that you do.
Yeah.
and reading people. And you can use it for buying strategies, love strategies, the way people think, what they say. Are people a touch? Are they a feel? Are they a data? Why do they say what they say, but then they do something else? Like, it allows you so many other different ways. How you would set up a meeting, how you come across. It's honestly, it's like.
And how long's the course to do it?
So I do it every Thursday, and I've been doing every Thursday since about January. And I'm doing 4 hours every Thursday.
Right.
Because I can really relate this. So my business research project at uni was all to do with emotional intelligence, and I based it a lot on Daniel Coleman, which I'm sure there's a lot of crossover with NLP. But NLP seems to be the next level of that.
Yeah, definitely, and especially from like with what you are doing, reading people and understanding where people are, and knowing when it's time to be on sales mode or human mode.
Yeah.
And switching them off.
Yeah.
And reaching out and doing little things and little sort of sayings. It's honestly, it's massively helped me with my clients, because I'll do things like a positive reframe. So when people say, so I had to coach myself to do my bungee jump a few weeks ago. So naturally we'd go, fucking hell, a bungee jump. And people's mind goes to what if negative.
Yeah.
What if negative? So what I did in the car was, I was like, right, bungee jump, what if negative? And I was like, bottle it, don't do it, embarrass myself, anxiety, don't jump far enough, like loads of silly things. And then I wrote, well, what if positive? Confidence, doing it, does what it says on the tin.
Achievements.
Great achievement.
LinkedIn post.
LinkedIn post. Marketing, 100%.
Totally.
And by the way, that post has brought someone to me. So the list of why I should massively outweighs the list of why I shouldn't.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, as you get closer to it, embrace that. Like, fucking hell, like in the minibus driving there, everybody was like, I was like, oh, can everyone feel that? Nerves. Like,
Yeah.
get right into it and study it and think, why am I feeling this, and where else do I feel this feeling? And if I can understand it, then I can figure it out. And all I did was, I did like what you call I did like a positive anchor, where I basically reminded myself when was the last time I felt so confident in exact time. And once I got that like feeling of ultra confidence, I did what you call an anchor. So I pressed onto my knuckle, and I was like, I was in the zone.
Yeah.
And I was buzzing, and then the lady said, life's about choice. So she said, so who wants to go first? I put my hand and went, can I go last? And she went, yeah. But you know what that is? That's me choosing when I go. So that's a choice.
Yeah.
So I've said to my mind and body, we go last.
Yeah.
So we now know when we're going. So there's no more anxiety about, there's no awkwardness. I've made the choice.
Yeah.
So when I jump, I've chosen. So when it was my turn to go and they brought me forward, I've just seen 5 people jump. They all had a great time. Positive reinforcement. There's no one come back up the line and gone, fucking nightmare that. Everyone's come up and gone, amazing. So like, oh, well, brilliant. From a safety point of view, no one's dead.
Yeah.
So I know it's safe because I've seen it. You've physically seen it. So therefore it can't be unsafe.
Yeah.
Right, John, so to the camera, yeah. Big guns, yeah. So on 3, mate. Now I've already said to myself, I'm going on 2.
Yeah.
I ain't waiting for you 3. I'm going on 2. So on the count, he's like, what? I'm gone.
You know what I always do? I do nostril waxing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's always like, and I'm going on the count of 3, and I always do it on 2.
Yeah,
just wallop straight, do it.
So again, it's that, and I would do that for anybody. You've got to break down what a fear is and what a stall is.
Yeah.
And you've got to understand it. And then once you can do that, you can move past it. And again, it gives you great confidence, because it's like, a lot of people would see a bungee jump. I don't like it. Some people say, oh, you do a lot of things extreme. And I'm like, let's talk about your use of the word extreme. What is it that I do that's extreme? Oh, well, you do hill walking, caving, bungee jumping, attack dogs, so and so. And I went, okay, what do? You get pissed, you socialise with dickheads, and you put yourself into uncontrollable environments. So out of the 2 of us,
Yeah.
who's doing anything extreme?
Yeah.
Because it ain't
Great
me.
point. Yeah.
Because everything I do has a level of competency and safety around it.
Yeah.
You go and get drunk in pubs. There's no one there managing that, saying, you know.
Yeah.
It's a great point, that.
So I was like, it's the positive reframe.
Yeah.
And then when you make someone realise, like, oh, actually I do some.
That's
Yeah.
a great set then to lead us on to, for people watching, for people listening.
Yeah.
Positivity and reframing the mind. What would you like if they listen to this? What would you like them to take away?
You're in charge of everything that you do. If you want to be fitter, get fitter. If you want to work on your business, work on your business. If you want to do what you want to do, you can do it. But understand this, it all comes in the ugly work. There's no silver bullets. There's no quick fixes. There's no I'll pay someone 10 grand and they'll move me forward. You've got to do the work yourself. Yeah, you can get advice and you can certainly speed up the process, but there's so many people who want the silver bullet. They just want to be there.
Yeah.
But you've got to just, I call it the ugly work.
Yeah.
It's got to be the ugly work.
It's a good term, that.
And I say to people, without the ugly work, you will never, ever truly appreciate the good times.
Yeah.
And again, another top tip that I didn't do this at the start, but when you get a win, new client, sponsor, opportunity, celebrate it.
Yeah.
Celebrate your win.
Yeah.
Don't just think, all right, what's the next? Oh, that was only a small, 500 a grand. I want the 20 grand clients. Like, there's this thing, whenever you've got these business conferences, everyone's selling courses for like 15, 20K. And it's like, you didn't start there, did you?
Yeah.
Like, and what you're telling people in the audience is you can get to selling 15, 20K courses, and you can. But 2, 3, 4 years down the line, when you've got a body of work,
Yeah.
and you've become the SME, subject matter expert in what you do, and people say he or she's the guy or girl for that.
Yeah.
You ain't just going to sell a course for 15 grand when nobody knows anything about you.
Yeah.
You don't have a website. You don't have this. You've never been on a podcast. You've not spoken at anything.
Yeah.
Like,
I think we can take we can take a lot from that, because me and Craig, we're obsessed with this project.
Yeah, it's class.
And we've constantly got ideas. We want to be places, and then we've got to have that conversation where we go, you know what? This only started in November.
Yeah, to enjoy the ride.
Like we've come a long way.
Yeah.
We've done really well, but we're still very early in the game.
Yeah, you've got to enjoy the ride, haven't you?
Yeah, we touched on that. We spoke
yeah.
on that. We actually, there was something that you came across about the journey is probably more important, and the growth from the journey is more important than the destination where you want to go.
Where is that? We don't have a destination. Like we can't ever stop. We can't ever just go, right, we're done with this. It's all about the continuous journey, the next step.
Yeah, I think your clients dictate your journey as well. So where you think you are, again, this is like another saying, but what got you here won't get you there. And like every time you get a new client, a new product, a new service, it should put you into a new room, and like your clientele will change.
Yeah.
And you've got to be okay with that.
That's a great. I bet you've got about hundreds of them in the locker.
I just started.
It's a great one, that one.
Was it? Yeah. Small
What got
holes.
you there won't. What is it?
Yeah. So what got you here won't get you there.
Yeah, it's a good one. That it's a cracker.
Yeah.
And all it means is, if you again, some people, the Northeast can be attest to this. But say you're doing well in the Northeast, right? And you like walking into Imperial Cafe and people know your name and how you're doing and you want to go for coffee. Unless you can do that in Bristol, London, Cornwall, Glasgow, Belfast, Cork, you ain't as big as you fucking think you are.
Yeah.
So why aren't you in the other rooms?
Yeah.
Why aren't you in the northeast of England? Why aren't you in Scotland? But what happens is we love to be the king or queen of piss and shit. Like we like to walk into little towns. Hey, it's so and so. Hey, how you doing? You're smashing
the local
it.
hero.
But what you need to be doing is like, I now need to be in a different room. There's another one for you. If you're the smartest man or woman in a room,
You're in the wrong
you're
room.
in the wrong room.
Yeah.
You've got to be in a different room.
It's
So
true.
like, I don't really network that much anymore in Darlington, because I think to myself, well, everyone, I don't know everybody, but like, if I'm going to go and give up 2 hours in Dartland, what I should be saying is, why am I not in Leeds?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if I go networking and I know you, I don't speak to you, I might say like, hello, how you doing? But I know you.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know me.
yeah, yeah.
Me standing in front of you and talking, I'm not doing what I should be doing. In fact, I actively like look at the list and say, no. I want to look at a list of people and say, I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
And that's the perfect room
Yeah.
that you need to be
Yeah.
in.
It's
Not-
another great tip. That
It's not
Another
about
great
who
tip.
you know.
Yeah.
It's about where can I be and what room should I be
Yeah.
in. And like tonight over in Teesside, there's a great thing on in Flock. Now I'll know a few people in there, but it's an event I've wanted to go through for ages. And again, you know when people say they're busy, oh, I'd love to, but I'm busy. It's never about busy, it's about priorities.
Yeah.
Because I've never missed anything that I've wanted to do.
Yeah. And what's that event?
It's all about failures and people celebrating the failures. The
Right.
exact name of the event escapes me, but it'll
Right,
be full
okay.
of like, again,
In a networking event, yeah.
well, it is like an open event. There's always an opportunity to network.
Yeah.
Again, it'll be the sort of people who I want to work with. Like, and again, look, be in the right rooms as well. And if that means you've got to be like looking and selective, you've got to be in the rooms with your audience, haven't you?
Yeah.
Like you've got
yeah.
to know who you. First of all, you've got to know who your audience are, and then you've got to be in the right rooms with them. And again, like a last top tip, not everyone's a perfect fit, and I dequalify more than I qualify.
Yeah.
Right,
And
okay.
that's
Yeah.
so important because
Yeah.
time is. Because
Yeah.
if you're wasting your time with people who aren't your jam,
Yeah, yeah.
you miss the
yeah,
people who are.
Yeah, you know what? I'm new to LinkedIn, but some of what's became a little bit annoying is sometimes the irrelevant Teams meetings I'm having, and I'm getting to the point where I'm just like what do you want, or like is there a point of this conversation?
Yesterday, 2 people reached out to me, cold outreach. I do it myself. I'm okay with it. But they wanted to have conversations with me over DM, and I just said, hey, there's my number. Shoot your shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And do you know what? They didn't phone me.
yeah,
And you, as someone who does cold outreach, if someone had said to you, there's my number, ringers, on
Straight
it,
on the phone.
straight on
Yeah.
the phone,
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
those 2 people, I'm like, I've just give you my number and
Right,
give you the
yeah.
green light. Whatever your pitch is, I'll hear it, shoot it.
yeah,
But I ain't having a DM back conversation
Yeah.
that's going to take ages.
yeah.
I ain't got time. There's
Yeah.
my number. Ring me. Get to the point. What you're selling. Am I interested? Yes or no? And that's what I do with people.
Yeah.
I literally phone people. Is this CEO so-and-so? Yeah. It's John Beamson. I do leadership and resilience training. Is that something that you're currently interested in? Not really, John. Awesome. Have a great day.
Elevator pitch, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you've got
Straight-
it's
yeah.
going back, like you've got 90 seconds in a room
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
you know the biggest person that
Yeah.
could be your client.
Yeah.
You've got 90 seconds in that elevator till it gets to that level. What do you say?
And people have thanked me and said, well, John, thanks for getting to the point.
Yeah.
Because they ain't got the time to
No,
waste.
you
Yeah.
don't. You just want to know, like, what do you want?
Yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah.
What's the next process? We'll book a meeting.
Yeah.
Class. Let's do that then.
Do
Bosh.
you know, mate,
Class.
I used to write, because recruitment's got a terrible name in the industry.
Yeah.
I used to write, I do recruitment. Do you need it?
Yeah.
If they come back no, sound. They don't
Sound.
need it. If they come back yes,
Conversation.
sound. There we go. I know that they need my services.
Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
that's what I'd say to
Yeah.
everyone loves to make money, no one likes to be in sales, which is bizarre because if you run a business, you're in sales.
Yeah. 100%.
Because without money, it's over.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Like, it's over.
Yeah.
You can write all
100%.
your core values all you want over LinkedIn, and you can waffle about how brilliant you are. You can celebrate international whatever day, but without money in your bank,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get the job.
100%.
Yeah.
So we're gonna.
yeah,
So
awesome.
we're talking about the aim of the project is to help and inspire.
Yeah.
You're an adversity coach. We're going to finish on. I probably know your answer, but what's the biggest? When was the moment that was your biggest adversity? And for anyone watching, what did you implement, and what advice would you give?
So my biggest adversity. So when I found out my dad had died, I was with a client on a resilience day for him, doing a scramble in the Lake District. He was having a difficult moment. I was taking a photo of him in like a difficult moment that he asked for. And then it came up on my phone, Mum. Now, I never answer my phone if I'm out with a client, but because I saw Mum, I just did that thing. I swiped it, and I was going to say, I'll ring you back. But before I had a chance to say, I'll ring you back, she went, your dad's dead. I was on a ledge at about fucking 600 metres with a client who was having a fucking bit of a night, who's struggling, who needs me to be who I am.
Wow.
And for a moment, I had to just go, right, okay, bye, I'll phone you back. Put my phone away.
Wow.
And have that just fucking wash over me. And I was like, there's nothing I can do. I'm literally, I can't, if I fall apart now, he's taken all of his courage and strength and confidence from me being that. If I fall apart now, there'll be 2 more body bags to fill. So I can't fall apart. So I had to just go, right, my dad said, can't do nothing about it. Right, Chris, what we're doing is, mate, put your foot there, put your hand there, do that. Yeah, sound brilliant, mate. Got to the top. Still didn't tell him because we were supposed to be doing something else the next day. We walked, and Nav just walked us off the mountain, which was about 6 or 7K, still in the game.
Wow.
Having conversations, still in the back of my mind. Fucking exhausting, by the way, like to do that like that. Got down, sat him down, went, do you want a can of Coke? I always finish with a can of Coke, right? It's the sugar.
Yeah.
So, when a can of Coke, went in the shop, still not fucking let it, we're talking 2 or 3 hours here. It's
Wow.
I've still not allowed it to register because he's buzzing about what he's achieved. He's just overcome a massive, like, fucking, I've done this main thing. So, can of Coke, The moment, I'm like, right, the moment's finished now. Like, we're down, we're safe, there's the car. He's had his Coke, he's had something to eat. Client welfare, number 1. He's like, yeah, brilliant, mate. I've had a fucking brilliant day. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. And I went, unfortunately, Chris, we won't be able to do tomorrow. My father's passed away. So what we're going to have to do now is we're going to have to drive back to the accommodation and then we're setting off for home first thing tomorrow. And he was like, fucking hell, mate.
Wow.
I'm really sorry. When did you find that out? I went, about 3.5 hours ago, mate, when we were halfway up at that fucking cliff edge.
Wow.
And he was like,
Wow.
fucking hell. And I said, do you know what, Chris? When you practice resilience, you better fucking be it.
Wow.
Because at some point, it'll come for you.
Wow.
And he was like, wow.
Yeah,
And
that's...
I just said to him, like, when we get back to the digs, mate, I'm just going to go to bed. I'll see you in the morning. Because, like, I literally had to hold, like, emotion of your father. I had to hold that emotion for 5 hours before I was allowed to go back in the room and, like, cry my eyes out. 5 hours. Like, I was like, can you imagine holding on to, like, that for that long? I was like, fucking hell. It was only when I shut the door and I allowed it to, like, hit me. I would say to people, don't ever hold on to emotion like that. Because it was fucking brutal.
Wow.
And I just, like...
Would you have changed how you approached
Nah,
this?
because we were in a situation where if I'd have fallen apart, he would have fallen apart, and we would have not been in a good spot. And
Right.
you can't choose where it happens to you. So you just have to be ready to you know, if I'd have been in the office, I'd have just gone home. But I was in a dangerous environment, or an environment that potentially had consequences. So, like, you've got to... That's like... That, for me, that was the hardest moment because I couldn't allow it to affect me. And I don't think you can get much worse than that, than find out your dad's passed away and then not being allowed to process it for about 5 hours.
Wow.
So I'd say that was the fucking hardest moment for me.
Wow.
Like,
wow.
fighting the Taliban and all that used to be the story. That's the story now.
Wow. Wow. Well, John, it's,
How do you? Yeah,
I think we'll finish.
It's a tougher story we've definitely heard at the end. So thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it.
Been brilliant, lads.
Not that I
you
need
for
to
coming
tell you
on.
with your mentality, but never throwing the towel.
Absolutely.
And I just want to thank everybody for watching and listening. And as always, please, subscribe and like and drop a comment from what you've taken from this podcast and who you would like to see next. We've got some great guests lined up, one next week, which we're really excited to do. But thank you very much. And thanks again, John.
Awesome. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Cheers.
Wow.